You guys watched my pregnancy vlog, you know I'm wearing the exact same thing, but that's because Monday is going to be a really hectic day for me because it'll be my first day back to work. So, and then I'm on strict bed rest when I get home. So, I wanted to record the video now. This is, I'll put my schedule down below. This is when I talk about baby stuff for this baby. So, I just wanted to talk about our breastfeeding plan. It's going to be 2 parts. And that's because it's going to be maybe a little long. But first part I'm going to talk about definitely my past. My son, I only breastfed him for 6 weeks. I didn't have a lot of support. Nobody was willing to really work with me, understand that breastfeeding was very important to me. So at 6 weeks, I stopped after talking to my doctor and being very stressed out. Our pediatrician, she agreed. She said, you know what? It doesn't matter formula or breast. What matters is that you are happy and baby will be happy. So I stopped, and I was a little frustrated with myself, but it was very true. I was getting very sick. I wasn't sleeping. It was a bad situation. So then with my daughter, I was very determined. I'm going to make it to 6 months, and then I'm going to make it to a year. I put a lot of pressure on myself that I would make it that far. And with her, I do feel very much, I probably will cry because I feel like I failed. Because most people would say, oh, as long as they're gaining, they're doing fine. Well, she wasn't gaining. She was about, 4 months old? And she was only 9 pounds. So, and I then, for 3 months, continued to breastfeed her, and she gained, well, she then lost 6 ounces, and, yeah. It wasn't until she was hospitalized for failure to thrive, that at that time, the hospital said put her on formula. The lactation consultant said you need to at least try the medications to get your supply up, because they said it was too far gone for the herbs and everything to help. They said they said when I take the medication, take it for a good 2 months and then go just onto the herbs, and you should be fine. Well, nobody would prescribe it to me because it I think it was the Reglan that they said can cause depression. And unfortunately, my regular doctor that I know, and she said too, she still feels bad. She would have prescribed it for me in a heartbeat, but she was on vacation, and she was gone for I think 3 weeks. So I ended up calling her office the day she left. So when she came back, she said, I'll prescribe the medication for you. And at that point, I said we stopped. And I said, would it help if I took it now? And she said, no. And even the lactation consultant I talked to said, yeah, 3 weeks, you're done, with how low your supply was. So, after really looking back at it, I can't be mad at myself because we didn't have a baby skill at that time. She was never, when she breastfed, it was never like my son where he always showed signs of still being very hungry after. She was always content with what she got. It was kind of like, okay, yeah, I can do this. So, and then what ticked me off the most was that then at her 1 year endoscopy, she had a endoscopy done the day after she turned 1. They found that she had a soy and dairy intolerance, and they put her on soy formula. And they found, because she wasn't growing that much, even being on the formula. And because she was shy. She was 11 pounds at her first birthday. I think so. I don't have the information. It's all on my other channel, so I'm going off of memory, and I have pregnancy brain at the same time. So what we did for her was I was then told that I should have just done, she should have been breastfed. And at that time, I didn't know about the human milk for human babies that are done statewide. I had no idea about that site, that I could have used it to help her not have to be on Alimentum. She could have been on breast milk, and she could have been on the breast milk. I could have supplemented with the breast milk instead of the formula right away. But those were things I didn't know about, because actually I wasn't involved in this community, the TTCing pregnancy community or the mommy community. I was kind of on my own, and being surrounded by a lot of people that just were kind of, well, whatever, just just formula feed. All of my cousins have just formula fed. All of my friends formula fed. None of them ever really wanted to breastfeed. So, and my mom finally told me after, because I felt like I was a failure. I was very depressed, and I said, well, Mom, you breastfed my brother and I. And she said, my brother would put on formula right away because she couldn't breastfeed him. And by the time she could, and she said back then there wasn't, and she's like, they had a little pump, and she's like, but that wasn't enough. She's like, you had a hand express, it wasn't enough, because he was in the NICU for a good month. So she said, him, she did not, and me, I only breastfed for 6 months, and then she went back to work. So, she said, I wasn't breastfed, so, like, she told me, she looked at me as a super mom, because I went back to work full-time right away, and still pumped, and still breastfed. So she made me feel good. So with this baby, after really evaluating the two situations that I've been in, it's part of the reason that I don't want another C-section, because I can't help but feel that my lack of supply is because of my C-sections. I don't want to breastfeed, to their 2 or 3, and to you guys that do, but to me, because then I would have to still pump at work, I can't. But yeah, a lot of it has to be at the beginning. And knowing that more than likely we will have a C-section, I've already talked with the lactation consultant, and she worked with me a lot with Tiny, trying to get my supply up naturally with just constantly feeding and pumping, and it just wasn't. And she also agreed with the other lactation consultant that the medication, it was needed, but she can't prescribe medication. And none of the OBs would do it because they hadn't seen me, and all they saw was that I had had anxiety in my past. So they all said absolutely not. Even though I'm like, well, but my antidepressant is the breastfeeding, like. And that's what my doctor, when I talked to her, she said, yeah, I understand that the breastfeeding is your antidepressant. So we talked to, I talked to her, and I said, really, this time I really want to breastfeed. I will breastfeed. And she said, but don't put so much pressure on yourself that you can even get disappointed. I said, well, this time I don't have a goal. If I only breastfeed for a week, okay. If I only breastfeed, for 2 weeks, if I make it to a year, that's good. But I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't make sense to put all that pressure on myself again. So, with that being said, what is my plan to be successful? I don't think I'm going to have enough time. So watch part 2 where I will talk about how I will be successful in breastfeeding.